and welcome back to Vnews broadcast. Today we'll cover the following stories.
Prime Minister Ttxvn met with Uzbekistani President Islam Karimov and Chairman of the Senate Ilija Sobirov. Swiss President Micheline Kami-Ray highlighted bilateral relations with Vietnam. Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, Yukiya Amano, visits Vietnam. Rice exports exceeded 5.8 million tons in the first 9 months of this year.
Party General Secretary Nguyễn Phú Trọng has requested mass mobilization committees to revitalize the content and the modes of mass mobilization work at all levels, and to also strictly implement grassroots democracy regulations.
At a working session with the Commission for Mass Mobilization of the Party Central Committee in Hanoi on October the 3rd, the party leader underlined the important role and position of mass mobilization. He said that the close relationship between the party, the state and people is a decisive factor for all successes in the revolutionary cause of the party and people. He emphasized the necessity to promote the dissemination of information to raise people's awareness of mass mobilization role and task, create a high consensus in the society, and bring into play the role and responsibility of mass organizations in the political system and the entire society for mass mobilization work. At the session, leaders of the Commission for Mass Mobilization and representatives of other party commissions discussed the renovation of the content and modes of mass mobilization work. They also deliberated measures to bring into play the role of people in implementing the party's policies and increase the quality of mass mobilization staff and mass mobilization work.
As part of his official visit to Uzbekistan, Vietnamese Prime Minister Nguyễn Ttxvn met with President Islam Karimov and Chairman of the Senate Ilija Sobirov in the capital city of Tashkent on October 3rd.
Meeting with Uzbekistani President, Prime Minister Dũng emphasized Vietnam's consistent policy of consolidating and developing its traditional friendly relationship and multifaceted cooperation with Uzbekistan. Prime Minister Dũng affirmed that the Vietnamese government will create favorable conditions for Uzbekistani businesses to invest in Vietnam. He also asked President Islam Karimov to continue supporting and facilitating Vietnamese business activities in Uzbekistan, particularly in the fields of oil and gas exploration and exploitation, agroforestry, fishery production, garments and textiles, footwear and cotton production. President Islam Karimov said that agreements reached between the two sides will make important contributions to consolidating and developing the traditional friendship and mutually beneficial cooperation between Vietnam and Uzbekistan. At the meeting with Chairman of the Senate Ilija Sobirov, Prime Minister Dũng expressed hope that the two parliaments will increase the sharing of experience in lawmaking, thus boosting their bilateral ties and contributing to fostering relations between the two countries. Senate Chairman Sobirov suggested that the two countries should step up cooperation in trade and investment promotion, facilitate the operations of Uzbekistani and Vietnamese businesses, and support import-export activities between the two sides. He also committed to creating favorable conditions to implement agreements signed by the two nations. The same day, Prime Minister Dũng visited the Vietnamese embassy and met with representatives of the Vietnamese community in Uzbekistan. He also received a president of the Uzbekistan-Vietnam's Friendship Association, Tursunali Kuziev. On the morning of October the 4th, Prime Minister Dũng left Tashkent, wrapping up his 3-day visit to Uzbekistan.
Switzerland and Vietnam hold great potential for further cooperation, and the two countries can develop their bilateral relations in the future, says Swiss President Micheline Kami-Ray in an interview granted to Vietnam News Agency correspondents. Currently, the two nations are celebrating the 40th anniversary of diplomatic ties this month.
The president stressed that the Switzerland-Vietnam relationship has grown fruitfully since the two countries officially established diplomatic ties on October the 11th, 1971. She said bilateral trade balance is now profitable for Vietnam, and this is an important development momentum for the country. President Camille affirmed that Switzerland always wants to go abreast with Vietnam in economic development. Hence, Switzerland has changed its policy towards Vietnam, with the focus placed on economic cooperation and partnership with the Southeast Asian nation. The Swiss president said the bilateral relationship has developed based on mutual understanding, trade and cultural exchanges. She expressed her hope that the relationship would be further strengthened in the years to come.
Deputy Prime Minister Vũ Văn Ninh hosted a reception on October 3rd for Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, Yukiya Amano, who is on a working visit to Vietnam.
Deputy Prime Minister Ninh thanked IAEA and the Director General for their support and assistance to Vietnam in drawing up a plan to develop nuclear energy in the country. He told his guest that Vietnam has a growing demand for energy due to its fast economic development, and nuclear energy is a solution to the nation in the future. He said Vietnam will apply nuclear energy to its socio-economic development for peaceful purposes. The Deputy Prime Minister also expressed his hope that IAEA would continue assisting Vietnam in finalizing a law on ensuring nuclear energy safety, building nuclear energy infrastructure, completing management norms, and sharing experience in applying nuclear energy in socio-economic development. The IAEA Director General Amano said nuclear energy is for not only developed countries but also developing countries like Vietnam, which can implement and apply nuclear energy in its economic development. He affirmed that IAEA will keep a close eye on nuclear power development in Vietnam and will provide the country with consultancy and assistance.
Deputy Prime Minister Hoàng Trung Hải on October 3rd visited the Mekong Delta province of An Giang to inspect its flood prevention and dike protection.
Meeting with local authorities, Deputy Prime Minister Hải urged the province to remain alert in its work to protect and evacuate people from flood and landslide-threatened areas. The provincial authorities reported that floods have inundated more than 14,000 houses, 200 kilometers of roads, and over 420 kilometers of dikes, while 14,000 square meters of riverbank has been subject to landslides. According to the National Steering Committee for Flood and Storm Prevention and Control, at least 11 people in the region were drowned, as many provinces were still waterlogged by rising flood water. Floods submerged more than 20,400 houses and destroyed nearly 500 hectares of rice. In another move, Typhoon Nanggae is forecast to hit central coastal areas from Nghệ An to Thừa Thiên Huế provinces on October the 4th. The typhoon is expected to gradually weaken as it heads west towards central coastal provinces. At its strongest, it will pack winds of up to 88 kilometers per hour.
The Vietnam Food Association has reported that domestic businesses shipped more than 5.8 million tons of rice, earning $2.8 billion in the first 9 months of this year.
In September alone, more than 560,000 tons of rice worth $291.5 million was exported. According to Deputy Minister of Industry and Trade Nguyễn Thành Biên, Vietnam rice export markets continue to be expanded as some Southeast Asian nations are importing large volumes of Vietnamese rice. The Deputy Minister said Indonesia plans to import around 1.5 million tons of rice from the country. Vietnam expects to export 7 million tons of rice this year, the highest volume for a year so far.
A meeting with the theme Bright Sight for Children was held in the capital city of Hanoi October 4th in response to the World Sight Day 2011.
Initiated by the World Health Organization and the International Agency for the Prevention of Blindness, the World Sight Day was designed to improve public awareness of protecting eyesight and treating blindness towards the goal of eradicating the disease in the world by 2020. It is estimated that there are some 314 million blind and visually impaired people throughout the world, including 2 million blinds in Vietnam. On this occasion, the organizers will provide free eye checkups for children under 15 in Hanoi and conduct surgical operations for children with eye malformations from October the 10th to the 14th.
This year, we'll look at the impact of cities in creating climate change, and in turn, the impact of climate disruption on cities and what cities are doing about it. This is the message delivered by the United Nations Human Settlements Program on the occasion of World Habitat Day, which falls on October 3rd.
According to the Global Report on Human Settlements on UN Habitat, it is estimated that by 2050, there could be as many as 200 million environmental refugees worldwide, many of whom will be forced from their homes by rising sea levels and the increased frequencies of flooding or drought. Vietnam is forecast to be one of the countries severely affected by climate change, especially by rising sea levels. A report released by the Asian Development Bank showed that more than 77% of the Vietnamese population living within 100 kilometers from the coastline will be affected by climate change in the next decades. For that reason, the Vietnamese government worked out a national target program to cope with climate change. Ministries and sectors have incorporated climate change adaptation with their development plans and strategies.
That's going to be all for today. Again, thank you for watching and good day to you.